Can I speak? Can I speak, please, normally? Today we're gonna be going over why your makeup is not lasting. Why isn't my makeup lasting? So frustrating. I know, I get it. Why doesn't my makeup last? I totally get it. So today we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. It is gonna be like a lot of me talking. It's gonna be really educational on that side of it. So I'm not gonna be actually putting on makeup today. I am gonna be talking about some products that I really like for longevity. I'm gonna be talking about some techniques that I really like, some things that you could maybe be switching up in your makeup routine to help your makeup last longer. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in or something that is helpful to you, please stick around and we're gonna start right now. Okay, you guys, so I'm going to do this video in the order that I would typically do my makeup. So I'm going to be starting off with primers. And the first thing I'm going to do is compare two primers because they have very similar like concepts. One of them is the Porefessionals, and then one of them is the Good by Pores by Catrice Cosmetics. This is by Benefit. And one of these I absolutely love, and one of them is maybe, if not the worst primer I've ever used in my whole life. I don't like to be negative on my channel ever. Never, never. I don't really like to talk about products that I don't like so much because some people could absolutely love these products, and I don't want to discourage you guys ever from using products that you don't like. But just personally for me, this does not work for me and my skin type. So you guys have to figure out, and I know that this is not the best answer and definitely not the answer a lot of you guys are looking for, but it's just brutal honesty, is that most makeup products are a experience of trial and error because you have to figure out what works for you and your skin type. If you have dry skin, if you have oily skin, if your skin gets oily throughout the day but starts off dry in the morning, things like that. If you have a day where your skin is feeling particularly dull or dry or anything, you have to figure out what works best for you because there are so many different finishes in primers and so many different ingredients that could be causing your makeup to maybe not last as long as you'd like it to. Also, you have to make sure that your primers and your foundations are matching up with ingredients, not every single ingredient, obviously, but you don't want to have conflicting ingredients between your primer and your foundation because sometimes what can happen is that primer can actually break down the foundation and make it look really, really patchy and make it just fall off your face, like literally just melt off your face because it's breaking down your foundation. And I feel like this does that with most of my foundations. I have never put on a primer that has made my foundation so patchy with so many different foundations that I've tried with this because I was like, oh, I'm sure it's just the formula for the foundation. No, it's the primer itself. And because these guys do have, I mean, this could be like a dupe, you know, that you see, because it's so similar. Just make sure that when you are getting something, you are looking at the ingredients and start with your primers. If your makeup is not lasting as long as you'd like it to, try switching out your primer first and see how that goes along. The next thing, you guys, is your foundation. So it really depends on a lot of factors. So whether you have like fine lines and wrinkles, if you're having trouble with creasing, if you're having trouble with oily skin, if you're having trouble with dry skin, if you are just having trouble with your foundation in general, and say you don't even use a primer, anything like that, which cannot be so great because primers do give that makeup something to hold on to, and it also protects your skin from the foundation itself. But as far as foundation goes, there's a lot of things that could be happening. The first thing that I always stress in every single one of my videos, I actually don't think that I mean, recently, maybe last year I wasn't talking about this so much, but I cannot stress this enough, you guys. Maybe you are adding too much product. So You, for many, many products, do not need an ample amount. I am a huge fan of less is more. The reason being is because that will make your makeup last so much longer, look so much smoother. If a light layer of foundation is not enough for you, here are some things that you can do. You can find a higher coverage foundation. So if you're working with like a medium to light, or you're working with something like that, you can find a higher coverage foundation and just go in with a layer. You can layer it up in thin layers and then build until you get that coverage that you want if you have a lighter coverage, but don't add so much, because what that is gonna do, you guys, it's going to not only almost like suffocate your skin, but those oils, it's gonna have more product to work with, and it's gonna be heavier on your skin. And then what's gonna happen is that it's gonna come off so much easier. And on top of that, if you are having fine lines, or you're having a problem with wrinkles, especially around your eyes and your mouth where you're moving constantly, it is going to be so much more noticeable. It is going to really dig. So what happens when you layer on that foundation like that, or your concealer? What happens as you move throughout the day, right? These lines bunch up against each other, which pushes the product together. And then what happens when you go back down is that it flattens out again. So like, I know that you guys know this is like very, it's, you know it, but sometimes it just takes someone pointing it out what is actually happening, even though of course you guys know all of this stuff. But that layer becomes even deeper in those lines because you're pulling and building almost like a little hill of foundation or concealer around the line. So it makes it appear even deeper and more noticeable. A really great way to fix that is do not add product where is not needed. So when you're working with your foundation or your concealer, anything like that, if you're not working with some really full coverage foundation, you can get away with this a lot more with a lighter to medium coverage foundation because it won't look as like drastic. So if you just take your blending brush, for example, I would never go all the way up with my foundation over here. That's just me because I do have these creases here. I get them a lot when I smile and when I talk, and I don't want that product there to be able to bunch up. So instead, with my foundation, I only bring it to around like here, and then I go in with the slightest bit of concealer. So I'm not adding the extra layer of foundation underneath the concealer because I know my concealer is gonna do its job and it's quite full coverage already. So I'm not worried about this little bit of my eyes or anything that's not getting that product because I don't need it there, and it's gonna do more harm than it is good. This is especially a really, really good tip for older women. If your makeup is not lasting in these places, please just give it a try adding less actual product. And you can also work very, very, very nicely with powder products. And I do feel like a lot of powder products, for the most part, there's some cream products that last like amazing, just amazing, which I'm gonna talk about a couple really long wear foundations that I love. But cream products do last very long, and I mean powder products, they do last very long in my opinion. I think that they are a really great option unless you have really dry skin, and then I would try to avoid them a little bit, but you could also try switching it up like that. There are just so many factors and I'm trying to hit them all. So if I'm missing any of your questions or any of these things they don't apply to you and I haven't hit what is applying to you and your problems with your foundation personally, please let me know down below in the comments, because it's just, there are so many different factors and so many different solutions to these factors that it's hard to name them all. So now I want to talk about my favorite long wear foundation, which is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I think that for long wear, this is by far, in my experience, whether it be myself or my clients, this is one of the best foundations for long wear. I also really enjoy the Stay Naked foundation, and this is by Urban Decay, and yeah, Urban Decay again. So 2 Urban Decay products, and then my NARS foundation in Soft Matte. So these are really good for long wear. Honestly, I don't have to set any of these besides maybe my Stay Naked. I would set this very lightly, but as far as the NARS goes, I mean, I'm wearing the NARS right now and I didn't set it at all, and you can see it's like not oily, it's not creasy, it's not anything, and I've had this on for a little while now, and it's just, it's amazing. It has a really nice soft finish, so it looks like skin. And then this for long wear, I do have to say, is a little bit matte, so if you're afraid of that, then maybe try the NARS beforehand. For lack of a better word, this is the most bulletproof foundation I have ever used in my entire life. They are a little bit fuller coverage, especially the Urban Decay one. So if you are looking for something that is a little bit lighter, I would go with the Stay Naked. That's the least coverage, I think, out of all of them, but it's still pretty full. So that's just what I like in my personal experience. And now we're gonna be moving on to concealer. And so the thing with concealer, you guys, is concealer is meant to keep your skin moist. It's supposed to lock in moisture. So yeah, those do lock in moisture. The only thing that you have to really keep in mind with your concealer is where you're applying that, and also how much of it you're applying. Same thing that I said with the foundation. And so when you have a very thick and full coverage product like concealer, you have to be very wary of where you're placing that, because especially if you put concealer on your T-zone, you have to make sure that your skin is not skin that gets too oily, because then what's going to happen is that that's going to create even more oil and more moisture, because concealer is supposed to lock in moisture. So what happens throughout the day is that gets heavy and that gets too moist, too wet, and it comes off very easily, especially if you didn't set it with powder, and even when you do set it with powder, it still comes off if your skin is getting too oily. So just please be very careful where you are putting that. If your makeup is not lasting and you're putting concealer like everywhere, please consider going a little bit back, just like weaning yourself off a little bit of that actual product, and being more careful where you place it, and I can almost guarantee you that your makeup will last longer. So that's all I have to say about concealer, because I already touched on not adding too much product and being careful of those fine lines and everything. So now we're going to be moving on to setting. So setting your face, for those of you guys that don't know, it's when you lock in your liquid or your cream product with a powder product. So this can be very helpful for the longevity of your makeup. There are a lot of different ways to set your face. There are a lot of different techniques, and sometimes you don't even really need to set your face because you have self-setting cream products. Like, I didn't set my face at all for anything, and I have all cream products on right now, and I didn't set my face at all, but I did use really great self-setting products, so I'm not worried about it. I'm also not going out like dancing or anything. Otherwise, I would set my face if I was like planning on sweating a lot for this, or if it was summertime, then I would definitely set my face. So I'm gonna talk about 2 of these techniques to set your face. The first one is called baking. So if you have your setting powder like this, and you want to take a sponge or a brush or anything that you want, right? You take a lot of product. Although powder products don't set the same as cream products, so I'm just going to show you. So this is baking, and I am putting this, I'm just going to put it over my eyes, I mean under my eye for the sake of the video. But you can do this over your whole face. Some people do like a light dusting all over their whole face, and then like not dusting, but they do light setting. Like it's still baked, it's still baking, and then they put a lot of product underneath their eyes. I will tell you, this will definitely help with the longevity of your makeup. However, there's a big however. There's a big but to this, okay? With baking, you have to be really careful of a couple things. The first thing is you have to make sure that when you are applying, you're not applying it patchy. So if you have like a flat sponge or you have one of those puffers that you want to use, then those are really good options if you decide to bake. It will definitely help with the longevity. I'm not gonna lie to you, baking is like, it really is amazing. So what happens is that when the product sits on your face like this and the powder just sits on your face, think about like clay, like what happens when you dry out clay. It gets hard. So the same thing happens in your face, and the science behind baking is actually pretty cool because it raises your body temperature, which helps literally bake the cream product, so your foundation, your concealer, whatever you have put underneath there, and it helps make it a little bit firmer and sit in place and almost like not a complete solid obviously, but it helps bake that into a more solid form. You guys get what I'm putting down, right? And so it does definitely help with longevity, but you have to make sure also that you are getting every little tiny bit of excess product off of you. Because what is gonna happen if you don't is you are going to have patches of like not high, it's not gonna look like a good highlight. It's going to look like not, I mean, okay, so this, it's also gonna smooth you out a lot. Like this baking, I really do think can be very good if you do it correctly. But you're gonna get these almost like flashes, you know, and this is especially important if you're going somewhere where you're gonna be taking a lot of pictures with flash. You're gonna get a glare, that's the word I'm looking for. So you're gonna have these like patches of glare if you don't get all that excess product off correctly. Another thing is, you guys, you have to find a setting powder that works for you. This is my personal favorite. I do have like a ton, and I never want to use any besides this one because I feel like the other ones are just way too white, or I don't like the formula, but this is my Kat Von D translucent powder, and I do like this one because this is a white, but it has like a cream tint to it, and I feel like the other translucent powders, I don't like the color for me. Like the translucent powders they're too white, and then the colored powders, depending on like what color you get, they're just too beige for me, if that makes sense. Like I think that this is the perfect balance for me, but you just have to find one that you like. Personally, this is what I use. You don't have to use this one. And another thing with baking, it will, if you have dry skin, it will dry out your skin. Even if you have if you have oily skin, this is a really good technique for you. But if you have any sort of like skin problem or anything, no matter what, if you have oily skin or anything, it is going to make your skin a little bit more dry. So just keep that in mind, please. I know it is a really good technique. It's a really good technique if it's done properly and your skin is able to handle that dryness. Okay, so the second thing for setting, the second technique that I'm going to talk about is what I personally use the most, and that is just, I would take like the excess powder on my lid of this. I would go in with like a brush and just lightly dust my face. It does help. It does help to set your face for the longevity of your makeup. But if you feel like you don't need that and you just want to try changing up your primers or your foundations or adding less product first, because if you do have dry skin, this doesn't dry your skin so much, but it still will make it less moist, more dry than if you were to add no powder, obviously. So I won't touch on that one too much because it's just like baking is better for longevity. This will definitely help with longevity, just the light dusting. But now we are gonna be moving on, you guys. So for our eyelids, if you are having an issue with your eyeshadow lasting, which I feel like is a little bit less common once you use a primer. So I use Urban Decay shadow primer, which I really like. They have a bunch of different primers, which I really like. But a lot of people, what they do is they put concealer on their eyelids. And so, which is fine. It's fine to do. This is like a big thing in the makeup community. And I mention this in a lot of my videos because it is important for you guys to know. I always try to add in like the most educational things for every day in every single one of my makeup videos. So you guys really like, it hits home. I hope that like you guys don't forget. But this is a big thing in the makeup community because like I said, concealer is meant to lock in moisture, and we as human beings, for the most part, have extremely oily eyelids to begin with. Our eyelids get very greasy, they get very oily. So with that combination of the concealer and plus when people have concealer on their eyelids, I feel like I see a lot of people add way too much concealer, as always. Instead of like a thin layer just to like get what you need, they go all out because they want that coverage, which you can get, but just use a lighter concealer. Like you can use a white concealer and still have that thin layer, but still get that light, even base for the pigment of your eyeshadow, something like that. So if you are having trouble with your eyeshadows, definitely try using a primer. If you're using concealer, try using primer instead. Or you can try, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, okay? There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So maybe this needs to be its own video because if you're having trouble, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make this its own video on how to get your eyeshadow to last longer, because there can be a lot of problems. So there can be a problem with your eyeshadows blending together throughout the day. And so that's when obviously like the color from your lid goes onto your crease just from blinking, just from that everyday motion of rubbing together your eyelids, or it could just be too oily and creasing together. So maybe I'll make this its own video and you guys can tell me like what your problems are personally, and then I can address those problems from there, because I could be talking about eyeshadow for a really long time, but just for the sake of time in this video, I'll say if you're using concealer, switch to a primer. And then if you are using a primer currently, try switching up your primers to find something that works a little bit better for you. Maybe something that is a little bit more like a matte primer or something like that. That could help you dramatically. And now we're gonna be moving on to our last step, which is setting spray. So setting spray, I do really like it. I don't think that it is absolutely necessary for a lot of people. I think that it does a couple things. So it does help with the longevity of your makeup if you are having a problem with that. But the other thing that I think setting spray is the best for, rather than just the longevity of your makeup, even though if you're going to use setting spray, it definitely works better on powder products than it does on cream products, but it still will work on cream products as well. So I would definitely recommend setting your face with powder before using setting spray. But the second thing that this thing does, I think, is more important, and that is actually it almost melts your makeup together a little bit. So it blends your makeup, and it's minuscule. It's not like a huge difference, but it does help with the overall like smoothness of your face because it helps break down those products and almost like smooth them together, if that makes sense. So setting spray, I definitely would recommend if you're having trouble with longevity, if you're having trouble with blending. It is very helpful for a lot of things, but I would recommend using it on after setting your face, so like powder products, even though of course you can use it for cream and it'll be just fine. Actually, that's not the last thing. The last thing that I really want to say is, and this is a big one, and that's mascara and eyeliner. So when I tell you guys, waterproof is the way to go. Waterproof is the way to go. Waterproof, 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 waterproof. Even if you are like, I don't like waterproof products, for longevity, you're not gonna get better. You will not find a mascara out there. I mean, there are some waterproof mascaras that are terrible, you know, but the best waterproof mascara and the best like just regular mascara, they don't compare in longevity. If you take like the highest of the high in each category, the waterproof will always end up lasting longer, and that is simply because of what I said earlier. We have so much moisture on our eyelids. We have so much moisture around our eyes. I mean, of course, obviously, whether it doesn't, anything, like your eyes water throughout the day, anything, your lashes are getting the brunt end of that. Not only that, but they're protecting your eyes from everything else. So there's a lot going on there that they have to handle, and they need something sturdy. They need something that will withstand the trials of the day, and that, my friend, is waterproof mascara. My personal favorite is the Pump and Volume by Dior. That is like the best mascara. This baby is like the best mascara that I have, in my opinion. I mean, that I have used anyway. This is my favorite. There are a lot of really good drugstore brands as well. Like L'Oreal has some really good waterproof mascaras, but that's a big one because your eyes get very, very moist. Oh my gosh, you know what? I have another thing that I have to talk about, and that's lipstick. I'm like, yeah, this is the last thing. This is the last thing. It ain't the last thing. I hope this isn't too boring for you guys. This is like an educational video for sure. It's not a like have fun. This is if you're struggling type of video. So for lipstick, what I would recommend for you guys is, first of all, make sure that your lips are always very moist. Make sure that you are applying chapstick regularly, that you're drinking enough water, because that actually makes a really, really, really big difference, really big in your lipstick and the longevity of it. So if you're having trouble with that, I would recommend using a lip stain. A lot of the times, you guys, it's actually just the quality of your lipstick. So that doesn't mean that there are like, that doesn't mean high-end lipstick. That means quality. That doesn't mean like the higher end ones will be the best. I have some really cheap lipsticks and lip stains that I really love, and then I have some really expensive ones that are like, I don't know about this. But yeah, just make sure that if you are having problems with your lips, you want to make sure that you're moisturizing your lips all the time, because if they get dry and they start to crack like that and your lips start to peel, not only is that going to make your lipstick just not look good because it's not going to be smooth, but also throughout the day, you guys know what I'm going to say. Like, you guys know when you apply lipstick on dry skin, what happens. And the reason that I'm saying this is because the best product to use for a really long lasting lip look is obviously lip stains. And so those are the same thing basically as lipsticks. The only thing is a lot of lip stains, can be very drying to your lips. They can be very matte. They can be, a lot of them, not all of them. Some of them are like a normal finish, but just please, you guys, be aware because they're not like glossy, obviously. So please make sure that you're taking care of the moisture in your lips before you're even thinking about the longevity of your lipstick, because the products that you would use for the best results will dry your lips out. they just will. That's just how it is, unfortunately. There are some really, really good long-lasting lipsticks. Where is this bad boy? Okay, so Clouds in My Coffee, I really, really like. There's also one, oh my gosh, this was my favorite lip gloss, especially for long lasting. I wore this every day for like almost 3 years, I have to say. And I don't have it now because now I live in Europe and I can't find it online anywhere. But it's called When in Doubt. I think it's by Too Faced, and it's like another chef's kiss. Like another chef's kiss. That is if you're looking for something that is a little bit more like, I mean, it's a gloss, you know? So if you're looking for something that is a little bit more shiny, that has a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit dewy, you know, and you want a gloss instead, that is a really, really good color, everything, longevity. It really works. But of course, like, you guys figure out what works best for you and your lips and your textures and all of that stuff. So that's all I have for you guys today. Again, if I miss any of your questions at all, please let me know down below, because if you are doing, say, like everything already in this video that I mentioned and I didn't address a problem that you're having, or you're having a different problem, please tell me, because like I said before, there are so many solutions and so many problems why your makeup could not be lasting, and I'm just really scratching the surface with them today. So I really also hope that this wasn't too like boring for you guys, because it's just me sitting around talking. But I do think it's important to have these types of educational videos, because it's really hard to navigate, especially it can be very frustrating when you're like trying everything and your makeup is just not lasting and you don't know why. It can be really frustrating. So I really get that. Really, I do. So yeah, if you guys have anything, let me know please down below in the comments. And that's it. If you guys did enjoy this video and you found it helpful or educational, or you just liked watching and you had a fun old good time, consider subscribing, you guys, and giving a big thumbs up. It really does do so many wonderful things on this channel for me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.